Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey guys, this is Tim Sparkman, and welcome to our Monday morning, our first one, Monday morning training call. We've been doing this on Sunday nights for the last, wow, 12 months, Jim. Time flies. And we decided to
It
move it
does.
Monday at 12. We had a lot of requests, people Sunday night church, Sunday night family events, and a lot of people doing KTAs. So we're going to try this out and see how it goes. We know we got a lot of sleepyheads that we're traveling back from the convention. Southwest Airlines, thank you very much for delaying all your flights, but everybody made it home safely, and that's what matters, and we're fired up, ready to go to work. So, guys, this morning we're going to have Mr. Jim Moseley on with LSW, National Life Group, something I'm very excited about. And, Jim, before we get into y'all's products and stuff, I think sometimes it gets lost in the shuffle
hmm
is the events that you guys put on. And I've talked to a couple of people about your events, and what you have to understand is the majority of our organization,
hmm
Jim, are new to the life insurance industry. So
hmm
when they hear that we're going to Florida, they hear Florida, and I think a lot of them's
hmm
missing 4 seasons, and they've missed what it's like to be treated 5-star rock star. And Florida's a great place, but it's completely different when you're staying at a Four Seasons or you're staying at a Ritz Carlton, which I would consider one step above Four Seasons. Could you kind of tell them just a little bit what to expect when you get there? The difference in going to an all-inclusive or going and paying for yourself to I mean, really, not just you guys, the entire insurance industry, but especially what you do for your agents when you arrive?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So the particular one I know, Tim, you and I have been talking about a little bit is our Conference of Champions date that's coming up. It'll be, I guess, 2017 there in Florida, and yeah, typically I think the best way that I always think about it, Tim, is whenever you ask friends and loved ones that recently got married and they went on their honeymoon, you ask them, hey, how was it? The typical theme that I've always heard is that generally all inclusive is the way to go rather than going the a la carte or doing the rental stays. We really do want to pamper and show appreciation. So I don't know if anyone's big fan of music or the mariachi band, but this is always the scene that comes to mind for me when I think of, you know what, I want to get away and just relax and enjoy myself and get the nice beach in the background and got the band playing the live music. And so that's really the vibe that we go for whenever we're talking about any of these trips. Even in our flyer, I love the one lady's already getting her massage on, and you got that sunlight dinner there on the patio. And so yeah, it really is a time to kick back and relax. I've noticed that typically people tend to vacation a little differently. Some people want to be pounding the pavement and hitting the golf ball and touring those nice courses that are around the hotel, and others really want to relax and kick back, and whether that's a massage or whether that's just enjoying the beach with a nice drink and a nice book in hand. It's a really good time to celebrate on what we would consider to be a job well done in that production time period, and to recognize that for one, right? We're not going to send everybody on those trips, but it is a good time also to reflect, unplug for a little bit, because we know it does take a lot of hard work to get there, and so we really do want you to really enjoy that experience while you can, and not necessarily be figuring out the details, or hey, are we going to where are we going to go for this activity, or what are we going to do? How are we going to cook dinner that night? Hey, let's not even worry about that. Let's really enjoy the company of other top producers. Here, hey, is there one or two sales ideas that can really even help me continue to elevate my game to the next level, as well as, hey, enjoy each other's company and celebrate a job well done. Does that shed some more light on that, Tim?
Yeah, I was talking to somebody at the event this weekend. I have a question for you. I said, do you like massages? And he goes, I love massages. I said, how do you feel about lobster? He goes, love lobster. I said, have you had any lobster this week? He goes, no. I said, have you had a
hmm
massage this week? He goes, no. What's your point? I said, that's because the massage costs $150 and the lobster costs 100. I said, I
Exactly.
can promise you the massages are not nicer, and the lobster is a lot more tasty when somebody else is paying for it. And I said, just trust me on this. The bed is softer. Everything is better when Jim Moseley is paying for it. So, and get this, 65,000 points, correct?
hmm Yeah, I think it's
65,000.
let's see. Yeah, 66. So it's very
66.
doable.
Okay. Ticker
Yep.
tack. But the bottom line is our LSW IULs are currently running about 2,200. So we're talking about 33 policies in the next 6 months.
hmm
Guys, that's not doable. That's doable, and go take somebody with you. Doable. It's
Yeah,
a
get the to say get the 100,000 so you can bring somebody with you, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to give you guys an example very quickly here. So 21 days into the month, gives this guy just a big data boy. Let me pull it up here real quick for you, Jim.
Sure.
Is so for the first 21 days of the month, Jason Broderick. Jason Broderick, 24,000 in premium. He is almost halfway there in 3 weeks.
That's awesome.
Congratulations, Jonathan. Donald Mayo, 9,700. Greg Archer, 6,000. Nina Tran, 6,000. And this isn't even in a month. This is in a few weeks, and how quick people are going to be qualified. But you got to get in the game. You got to understand the game, and we're going to turn it over to Jim from here and let them explain to exactly the products, what they need to do, and how to get there. Jim, it's all yours, buddy.
Perfect. That sounds great. Yeah, and I echo Tim's sentiment. Jump in the game and please, please, please come hang out with me in Florida. It sounds like a fun. The more of a and actually from a true standpoint, I know Tim, you and I were joking about it at dinner. You know, hey, when is that going to happen? The more of you guys that are out there qualifying for this trip, the more likely it is that I can talk management to letting me out for a day or two out of the office to see you guys as well. So you're going to find there's not going to be as many cheerleaders in your corner bigger than me. So anything that I can do to
Right.
help you guys get there, let me know,
Right.
because that's something that I
And
want to see happen.
couple more shout outs. Michelle Carter and Bruce Darter, they had good weeks, and I think you're going to see them there also with you.
Perfect.
But go ahead, buddy.
The more the merrier. So when you guys log into your web portal, this is typically that first screen that you're going to see on the welcome as soon as you log in, using your ID and password. And I know Tim and I were really talking about, hey, what are things that we can do here at National Life to really help speed the process along for you guys, so that we do know, hey, time is money, and particularly for you guys, you want to see people that are interested and want to make a difference for their loved ones and take care of goals that are important to them. And for the few people that you run into that don't want that, you want to get out of that meeting as fast as possible, right? So your time really is one of your most valuable assets. And so some of the things that we've done to try to really help streamline that, when you first come in, you will notice some of these quick tools here in the top left-hand corner. It really is your go-to in terms of obviously illustrations right off the bat, doing your electronic e-app if you're ready to submit that paperwork. If you're looking for a marketing brochure or an application kit, the forms of material search is the fastest way to pull up any marketing material or consumer piece that you want to show a client. But one of the things that I really like about our illustration system is when you first open it up and you click on, and we're running one, you'll notice there's a way you can launch your electronic e-app straight from the illustration system. So when you first open it up, you'll see this here of the different products that are available to you. So to narrow it down, you can even go to the drop down and click to find just the index products. Now, the one that Tim and I really wanted to focus on today is our Secure Plus Provider product. One of the reasons we really like that one is it is one that offers streamlined underwriting. And so when you hear me say streamlined underwriting, I want you to think quick turnaround time. Get it in, get it out, get it approved, and hopefully get it back to you to go deliver to your clients. And so the provider, I will say this, each of our product lines has a streamlined product. So if you're looking at LSW term, it's going to meet that criteria. If you want to do an index universal life, then provider's your winner. If you're looking to do a fixed side, if you want one on the fixed fixed scenario, then the winner is going to be the foundation product. So you would have one for whole life for any of our whole life fans out there. So, but the provider one was the one that we'll look at today. And so the Streamline Underwriting net is going to broadcast over clients that are 65 and younger, and your initial face amount is going to be $250 or less. So if we're doing, if it's a case where you know for sure they need 300,000 or 500,000, or if they're over 65, but we know we want to go with an IUL, then that might be one case where we look at the Flex Life rather than the provider, since we know we're going to be having to do a medical anyways. But so let's say if we have this one built, and tell you what, let's since I don't get too normal, I'm going to pick on you, Tim. So let's say we've got Tim ready, and you'll notice, so here it has today's date, and that's why it has my yellow mark here. The yellow doesn't mean I can't run an illustration. It just means right now it's not integrated with the eApp because I haven't actually put in Tim's actual date of birth. So, well, I guess I can't do the actual date of birth, otherwise it'll say he's over 65 and we can't do Streamline. But let's say we get him in there, and let's say, Tim, we're going to say that you were just born at the beginning of the year. So we've got Tim entered in here, and now you'll notice that my button here on the left-hand side, the iGo eApp submission, is now on. It's turned green. So the cool thing here is once I have this illustration all nice and neat and I save it, once I have it saved and ready to go, I'm going to be able to launch my eApp straight from my illustration system. And so the cool part that's going to do is when that pulls up, it's going to carry over a lot of the basic info that we already did on that case. So so in that particular example, since we didn't change the death benefit at all, it's going to default to the 100,000 paying that normal premium. But you'll see when it opens up here for me, it already has the first part of that eApp already done. So yep, Tim's my client. I'm doing the provider product in Texas. It's asking me, okay, are there any of these issues where I might not be able to do the eApp? For example, if you're doing if you're naming a child as the other insured, that's one of the things that the eApp won't do. Or if it's a spousal policy, it won't do. But as long as and it'll check that. So feel free, because if it does meet one of those, you can do it, but you'd have to do a paper app. But assuming that we don't have any of those conditions to worry about, then once we click no, we'll go right in, and you'll see that it's already going to have a lot of that information already pre-filled for me. So it already knows that Tim is the insured, and it already has his date of birth right here already done. So it'll have some of the other pieces I'll still have to fill out, but it's going to have a lot of that illustration already pre-filled for me. So the thought there again is we really want to cut down that time to then turn it around pretty quick. Once we get down to towards the end, one, it's not going to let me lock it now because I have a lot of red boxes since I haven't finished it out yet. But assuming you have it done, and you would know you have it done because all of these spaces are all checked with that green check mark we like to see there on that top one. Once we have it done, we can validate and lock the data. And there's actually two ways you can get the application signed. So if you are there with your client, then you can have them sign that right there face to face. And you would just mark that. The screen comes up and says, is the client present or not present? Well, if they're present, then you can do that signature method. They basically click to say, yep, I've read this disclosure. The agent has read the application with me. I'm ready to send it, and that's how they sign it. The other way is just an electronic version, which is they'll send it to the email that I already have for Tim that's in the application. They'll email it to Tim. He'll open it up. It does want him to read the application before he signs it, and then once he signs it, then it would be sent to me as his agent for me to sign, and then after I sign it, I can submit it off. The most common qualm or problem that I hear from agents when we're doing the signature method is those pesky forms that it says, check here once you've read and to, certify that you've read the buyer's guide or you went through the disclosure statements with your client. The computer system's pretty smart. If you don't open up those attachments or you don't open up the buyer's guide, it knows you didn't go through them with your client. So when you click that checkbox, it's not going to let you go on because it knows you haven't opened the document. So really do make sure you go through the buyer's guide with your client. It has helpful information, and which is good, because even one of the things that we talked about, on the qualification here is we really want to make sure you're writing good business. I know, Tim, when we listened in on the conference this weekend, one of the things we talked about, hey, we want to make sure you're writing good business, because if you don't, you're not going to get those last three checks of income. So we want to make sure we're writing good business. But assuming that we are writing good business, then they've done the buyer's guide and they're good to go. Then once you check that to submit it and they've signed it, and then you sign it, then you can submit it right to us. And so that goes straight into to the feed. If there are any problems or so that you'll notice right now, my screen here says that it's not in good order. So I haven't done all that I need to. So one, this one is since we didn't fill it out, it's so bad that it's not going to let me submit it. But let's say we submitted something and we weren't totally sure if we had Tim's social security number, or maybe a social security, we typed it in wrong. So there are some issues that the computer will catch, and it will keep me from being able to submit that business until we get it resolved. And then there's other times where it will let us go ahead and submit the application. So it's not giving me the error string next to his social, although I bet it's probably not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so if that's the case and we do have something that's wrong with the application, then the computer system here in National Life will kick it out. That's when an actual physical person is going to pull it, sit it down, read it, and that underwriting process, now becomes a little bit longer. So it is really important that we do answer, the electronic application to the best of our ability, just because we really do want to help cut down that turnaround time for you. Again, it's not something that we broadcast. I'm almost even nervous letting Tim know about it, but I have actually seen some policies entered through the e-app that have been issued the same day. So they send it up in the morning, that afternoon it gets issued out the door. So again, we really do know that you guys are trying to see as many people as possible, and we also realize that in today's world and technology, we really do want to be cutting down on these turnaround times. Things that can come up that can delay from the new business, again, obviously application issues is one problem that might experience. Another is the client and their medical history, their medical records. If we're in here, answering some of these medical questions, and there might be a concern or there might be a potential issue, then that might be one where we'll say, hey, we want to take a look at the client's medical records, and so we'll send off for an APS or attending physician statement. And something that is also just good to be aware of is when we order those, we have a third party that will contact the doctor's office that Tim listed here in his e-app. We're gonna call Dr. Smith. But when we call them, we're not as on good terms with Dr. Smith as Tim might be, because it's Tim's doctor, right? So one of the things that I've always noticed is if clients call their doctors, once we know, and you'll see it'll pop up on the new business, it'll see, hey, that the APS has been ordered and we're waiting for the doctor's records on the client. If you see that on your new business, then one of the things that you can do is you can actually give your client a call and let your client know, hey, if you want to reach out to your doctor and let them know, hey, when you get this call, please release my medical records as soon as possible, then they're going to be a lot more inclined when Tim calls, because it's Tim Doctors, and Tim could say, hey, if you don't release my records, I'm going to go find another doctor that's going to serve me well. So I have noticed that also can cut down on getting those doctor's records back in time. But again, really, yeah, it's just some of the small things that we can do to really help cut down on the turnaround time. And again, one that helps you because you see those production numbers increase. And tell you what, although sometimes, particularly if we're brand new to the business, you might look and you might see, man, that 66,000, that does kind of sound like a lot. Well, it might sound like a lot in the very beginning, but just like Tim said, once you get in the game and you start to see some of those numbers come back in, it really is inspiring. And particularly then when you think through, okay, yeah, I do want that massage and maybe the lobster to go with it, that really does help generate some traction for you to keep back at it and to keep searching for those other clients.
Jim, I got a question real quick. I mean, everything you're talking about there is National Life, LSW is doing everything they can to expedite the process and get the agent paid quicker, correct?
Yeah, we really do want to get it out the door as soon as we can.
So one thing I would recommend, and I think everybody has figured this out, I am not the insurance expert, but if I was given advice, it would be slow down so LSW can speed up. So
sure.
When you're sitting at the kitchen table, whether you do this in 30 minutes or an hour and a half, it's not going to change the speed of LSW doing their job. But I always tell everybody, just picture a conveyor belt going through the middle of LSW's office. You put that apple in the front of the conveyor belt, and in 24 hours, it's going to spit it off the other side. If there's anything wrong on that app, about halfway down the conveyor belt, it spits it onto a desk of an employee that probably has other apps on that desk too.
Sure.
And that's where probably the majority of the errors that I see is simply somebody going too quick and not asking the right questions that inevitably slowed their check down. It wasn't LSW, it was the process at the kitchen table wasn't being slowed down enough.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a good point. And to Tim's point, one of the fun things that is really fun for me in my department here on the sales side is the company's growing. It's been really the past 3 years have been really good years of growth for us. Similar to Tim with you, I know we were talking a little bit about growth at the convention, and growth is always kind of a funny thing because you always kind of want growth. But sometimes when growth shows up, depending on how fast that growth is, that sometimes can carry some growing pains. And so know that from our end, at least from my end here in sales, I do see that, I know the folks in new business are trying, but I also know that there's a lot of apps coming in the door, which again is a good thing to have. But to Tim's point, yeah, because there are other apps on that desk as well. It really does help. What's that old saying? Slow is smooth, and smooth is fast. And I think that really does illustrate Tim's point. Okay, if we're going slow through that application so that it goes smoothly, then that way when it comes in the door, we can go real fast and turn that around and send that back out to you to go deliver to the client. And make sure when you deliver that you ask for some good quality referrals too, so that. Tim, you like that? We got to make sure we cover some prospecting stuff too.
Absolutely. Jim, also sitting here in my office, I have 100 Invita and National Life group shirts that you guys have sent me. And, I was expecting polos from you guys, and I started looking up Crawford and Barnes and some of these companies. Zero Sweat. These are $60, $70, $80 polo shirts. Tell you what we're going to do. We're working on it, but we're going to figure it out by Thursday and announce what everybody has to do to make sure they got 2 or 3 shirts that's nice. Out pushing the LSW products. And we'll get back with everybody on Thursday. And is that wrapping it up for you, Jim? Or you have a few more things you'd like to go over? Or
that's really the main issue. If if I don't know how you are on time, Tim, I definitely could go through a little bit more in depth and filling out that illustration if we're not sure how we want to position that. But yeah, that really is I think the big nuts and bolts version of, okay, how are some of the ways that I speed things up along? Something that I will say real fast that I know you and I were talking about on hey, sometimes an issue, a medical issue might come up that we weren't sure about initially, and that now the whole process from here is a little bit harder because our options are a little bit more limited. something another one that we can always talk through. 'Cause I know that some of y'all are savvy and do like some of the benefits of the Flex Life IUL. Is if it's something where you're not sure about from the client's health standpoint, you're not sure. Hey, maybe they can get that product, maybe they can't. Another thing that you could always look at doing is you can always start somebody off in that term product and say, okay, hey Tim, I know that you really want to have this permanent coverage, and man, we might, we're really excited about potentially doing the Flex Life, and maybe they're not sure, Tim, you said you might want to do 150,000, you might want to do 200,000. Tell you what, while you're thinking about it and deciding on your end, let's go ahead and get the ball rolling on National Life's end, because they're going to want to think about you too and think about, okay, hey, can we offer coverage to Tim? And so, hey, we know that you need the coverage. We know at least we need 150, or we know we at least have, X amount of death benefit that we need to get. Let's go ahead and get the ball rolling on that amount now, and then when it comes back from underwriting and we know we're good to go, we can pull the trigger on it. So you say, hey, here's 150,000 of term. We apply. It goes through Streamline, right? So he doesn't have to do blood or urine. In the meantime, he's talking to his wife and his friends. Hey, what do you have for your insurance? What do you know about this Invita group? Are they legit? Are they not? Then once he says, hey, I'm ready to pull the trigger, that term's already come back, and you say, hey, here's the term if you want it. Now he says, you know what? I think I really do want the 200,000. Awesome. Hey, let's convert this into the LSW Flex Life. At that point, now that he knows he wants to pull the trigger on permanent, he gets to keep his same rate class, and you've avoided having to go through underwriting. So that's another way you can always feel free to use those. I call it a medical close. Feel free to incorporate that there as well. If you have a client you've gotten them to agree, yes, I definitely have a need for insurance, but I'm not quite sure, which one I want to pull the trigger on. Hey, let's see if we can even get you qualified first, and then once you get them in the door, and see that they can qualify, now we can look at, turning that around and converting that into either the provider or the Flex Life.
Gotcha. Hey, if anybody has any questions, because we actually have a little extra time, I don't want to keep Jim too long. It's his lunch hour. But if you have questions, send them in. And Denny, yes, we got your message. I have obviously already qualified for my shirts. That when you do 35,000 in 1 month with LSW, I'm sure that qualifies you for more than one shirt. But if anybody has any questions, send them in real quick. Let's see what we got.
Sure.
You can see the questions there, Jim.
I was going to say I'll have to look as well, Tim, because you might be one shirt short, because they did look pretty nice. That's all I can say.
Yeah. It was very difficult getting them out of the convention.
Oh yeah.
She brought them to the room where we were having a meeting with 20 people. It wasn't the best move. It was like a bunch of clients.
Hey, at least everybody's excited about getting them now.
Yeah. Well, I don't see any questions coming across, Jim. I think we're covered. One thing I'd ask of you, I would like to, in the next 30 days, have for an extended meeting at your corporate office here in Dallas for 3 hours or so. I got a question came across from Michelle, where we come in, they can see your facilities, they can shake hands with people, and learn what's taking place in LSW and see it from your office. Michelle has a question here real quick. Once you get approved for term, what form do you use to move to an IUL Flex or the provider?
Good question. Yeah. So one of the things that we can do is, so this forms and materials is where is the place that I went to, which again was that very first link when you first came in. And so you'll get better as the more business you write. You'll learn, different form numbers mean this. I typically don't. I don't like to bother memorizing numbers. But it is the form 1441, or it's the policy change and conversion app, which actually has the 2007 is inside it. But yeah, I just quick searched conversion and pulled it up. So particularly, for depending on what state the client is in, there are some that, if it's a very specific, let's pull an example. So, for example, California always has their fun rules, and so if the client lived in California, then you'd want to add the CA there at the end of the numbers so that you get the one that specifically has some of the California state disclosures that you would want to make sure that you get signed. But then there, yeah, you would just pull it up, and then yeah, you would fill out that term conversion supplement for that application. So that's a really good question.
Good. Well, buddy, I appreciate your time as always. Looking
Yeah.
forward to you, since I've already invited myself to your office, I look forward to you to inviting all of us to your office.
No, absolutely. I know that we talked about it at the convention, and I actually had already called one of so the CEO and the COO, I already called their secretary this morning, because ideally, I do want to get it on the books, but ideally, depending on their schedule, I also kind of want to see if I can get it on one of the weeks where they're down here in the Dallas office rather than the Vermont office. Apparently they like the nature up there. They don't like all the skyscrapers we have down here in Dallas. But ideally I'd like to get a time where they're down here as well. That way that they can come in and say hello and meet a few of you guys as well. So, but no, yeah, we'll definitely, that's definitely on the radar.
Great, and we appreciate the field coming together, guys. Stay plugged in. Get to the Thursday conference call this week with Michelle. It's going to be phenomenal. And then get to your Thursday night meeting. Our office here in Dallas, every room is packed. We have agents signing up. We have policies being written. Literally make every minute count, and let's make 2016 a year to remember. God bless and have a great week.
Sounds good. See you guys in Florida.